She smiled at everyone. She was trusted by everyone. And yet, by the time the truth came out, she had destroyed every single life that ever believed in her. What she did wasn't just betrayal, it was calculated destruction. This is the story of Lauren Mitchell, a woman who seemed to hold everything together in a quiet American town where nothing ever really happened until people started noticing the small gaps, the missing details, the way trust began to crack in places no one could explain. And once it started, it touched everyone around her. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Lauren Mitchell lived in a quiet suburban town in Ohio, the kind of place where people still left their doors unlocked during the day and neighbors greeted each other by name without hesitation. In her early 30s, she worked as a respected real estate coordinator, helping families find homes they believed would be the start of better lives. Everyone described her the same way: kind, patient, always willing to step in when someone else was struggling. If a coworker was overwhelmed, Lauren stayed late. If a neighbor needed help, she showed up without being asked. If a community event needed organizing, she was already halfway done before anyone else volunteered. She was trusted in a way that didn't feel earned over time. It just seemed natural, like she belonged in the center of everyone's lives. People began to rely on her not just for help, but for judgment, advice, even personal secrets they couldn't share anywhere else. And the strange part was how easily she carried all of it, as if nothing ever weighed on her at all. She never missed a detail, never forgot a promise, never seemed out of place in any situation. But perfection was never something that came without cost, even if no one could see what was happening underneath yet. Jessica had known Lauren Mitchell longer than anyone else in her circle, ever since late nights at the office turned into shared coffee breaks and personal confessions neither of them planned to make. Jessica was a single mother trying to balance work and raising her young son, and Lauren always seemed to appear exactly when she needed help most, offering support without ever making her feel small for needing it. Then there was Daniel, Lauren's romantic partner, a steady and well-respected contractor in town who believed he had found someone rare, someone who made life feel simpler just by being present. At work, Mr. Harris, her supervisor, trusted her with responsibilities that normally required years of experience, often saying she had a natural sense for people. Outside of that, neighbors leaned on her for everything from organizing fundraisers to settling disputes, and even members of the local church group began asking for her input on decisions that affected the entire community. Lauren moved through all of these spaces with ease, never clashing with anyone, never being questioned in any meaningful way. What no one realized was how deeply connected she had become to every part of their lives, how much information she quietly absorbed, from financial struggles to emotional weaknesses, from private fears to personal goals. She didn't just hear their stories, she remembered everything, and slowly, without anyone noticing, those details began to shape the way things unfolded around them. She wasn't just part of their lives, she was inside all of them. It started with something so small that nobody gave it real attention at first. At Mr. Harris's office, a small discrepancy appeared in the monthly financial report, a missing amount that didn't match any transaction on record. Around the same time, Jessica noticed a private message she had sent to Lauren Mitchell had somehow been seen by someone else in their circle, something she never intended to share publicly. Then Daniel mentioned a strange inconsistency in a story Lauren had told him about being at work late one night, a detail that didn't fully align with what another coworker remembered. On their own, each moment seemed harmless, easy to explain away, but together they created a quiet unease that no one was willing to speak out loud. What made it more confusing was the pattern that started to form in hindsight. Lauren always seemed to be nearby when something went missing, always close enough to notice but never close enough to blame. When questions were finally asked, she responded with calm precision, offering explanations that sounded reasonable and careful, never rushed, never defensive. When emotions rose, she didn't argue. She broke down just enough to feel real, enough to make people second-guess their own suspicions. Jessica even felt guilty for doubting her at one point, and Daniel found himself defending her without fully understanding why. Mr. Harris dismissed the concerns entirely, calling them misunderstandings caused by stress and coincidence. And just like that, doubt disappeared. By the time people lowered their guard again, Lauren Mitchell had already begun shaping outcomes in ways no one could immediately trace back to her. Jessica started noticing tension between coworkers that didn't exist before, small disagreements that somehow escalated into full arguments. And each time she looked closer, Lauren was somehow connected to both sides, offering support to each person while quietly repeating just enough of their private frustrations to keep the conflict alive. At Mr. Harris's office, a serious mistake appeared in the system, one that pointed directly to a coworker who had recently clashed with Lauren. And before long, that person was removed from their position under disciplinary review. Daniel began hearing things from mutual friends that made him question loyalty, moments where Lauren would gently suggest she felt misunderstood by certain people, never naming names, but planting enough doubt to shift how others viewed them. Financially, opportunities began to move in Lauren's direction as people stepped away from deals, responsibilities, and shared projects, leaving openings she was always ready to fill without hesitation. Socially, she remained the steady presence everyone turned to, even as relationships around her started breaking apart in ways that felt sudden but strangely connected. One community member was publicly embarrassed during a church meeting after private information was revealed at the worst possible moment, something only a close circle would have known. Yet Lauren remained unchanged through all of it, calm in every conversation, helpful in every crisis, always positioned as the one trying to fix what others believed had simply gone wrong on its own. Every friendship she touched became a fracture point. The first real crack in Lauren Mitchell's carefully controlled image came from Jessica. Almost by accident, late one evening, while helping Lauren search for a missing document inside her home office, Jessica noticed a second phone tucked beneath a stack of folders inside a drawer Lauren had tried to close too quickly. At first, it didn't seem important until messages on the screen began lighting up with names Jessica recognized immediately. Coworkers, friends, Daniel, people who had all been pulled into conflicts over the past several months. What Jessica saw next changed everything. There were screenshots of private conversations saved and forwarded between different people, carefully edited messages designed to provoke arguments, and records of anonymous accounts used to spread rumors inside their community circles. Even financial transfers connected to workplace discrepancies appeared tied back to accounts Lauren had never mentioned to anyone. Jessica sat there realizing the confusion, the betrayals, the destroyed relationships had not happened naturally at all. It wasn't random. It was designed. When Daniel saw the evidence, the pieces started fitting together with terrifying clarity. Every disagreement somehow traced back to information Lauren controlled. Every damaged friendship began after a conversation with her. Every emotional collapse had been quietly guided by someone pretending to hold everyone together. Soon the group began comparing stories for the first time without Lauren present to steer the conversation. Mr. Harris learned that confidential workplace information had been manipulated. Jessica realized private fears she shared in confidence had been weaponized. Daniel discovered Lauren had intentionally encouraged jealousy between him and people he trusted most. The more they talked, the more impossible it became to deny what had happened. That was the moment trust didn't just break, it collapsed. When Lauren Mitchell finally realized people were comparing stories without her involvement, she agreed to meet with everyone at Jessica's house late one evening. Daniel was there. Mr. Harris sat quietly near the back of the room. Even some of the coworkers and neighbors whose lives had slowly unraveled over the past year came hopping. There was still another explanation they had somehow missed. Lauren walked in calm, composed, almost irritated by the seriousness on everyone's faces. Jessica placed the second phone on the table first, followed by printed screenshots, account records, and messages that connected one event after another directly back to Lauren. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Lauren looked down at the evidence without panic, without fear, almost as if she had already expected this moment to happen eventually. Then she smiled faintly and said the words nobody in the room would ever forget. She told them they were exaggerating things. She said they misunderstood conversations that were never meant to hurt anyone. And when Daniel demanded an explanation for the lies and manipulation, Lauren quietly shifted the blame back onto all of them. She told Jessica she had always been insecure and suspicious of others. She told Mr. Harris the office was already filled with tension before she ever arrived. She told Daniel that jealousy and distrust already existed between everyone long before she became involved. According to Lauren, she hadn't created the damage. She had simply exposed what was already there. But every time she spoke, more evidence surfaced. Another message, another financial record, another conversation twisted against someone else. Jessica finally broke down crying after realizing Lauren had been leaking deeply personal details about her private struggles to people outside their circle for months. Mr. Harris admitted the employee fired from the office had likely been framed from the very beginning. Daniel sat frozen through most of it, staring at someone he no longer recognized. Then came the moment that changed everything. Daniel stood up slowly, removed the ring he had planned to propose with only weeks earlier, placed it on the table beside the phone, and walked toward the door without saying another word. Lauren watched him leave in complete silence. No tears, no attempt to stop him. No emotion at all. That was when the room understood the truth nobody wanted to believe before. She didn't panic. She didn't beg. She simply accepted that the story was over. In the weeks that followed, the town Lauren Mitchell once moved through so effortlessly no longer looked at her the same way. Coworkers refused to speak her name unless necessary. Families who once trusted her around their homes and children quietly distanced themselves without explanation. Mr. Harris stepped down from his position months later after the scandal surrounding the office became impossible to fully contain, and the employee who had been blamed never returned after learning how badly their reputation had been damaged. Jessica struggled to rebuild trust with the people Lauren had turned against her, while Daniel disappeared almost completely from the community, unable to accept how close he came to building a future with someone he never truly knew at all. Investigators eventually reviewed financial inconsistencies tied to several workplace accounts connected to Lauren, though much of the damage she caused existed in conversations, manipulation, and emotional destruction that could never fully be proven in court. Some people believed she would eventually face consequences. Others believed losing the trust of an entire town was punishment enough. But the part nobody could move past was how ordinary she seemed while doing all of it. The scariest part wasn't what she did. It was how long she did it, without anyone seeing the truth. Even years later, people still question their own memories, replaying conversations and moments they once believed were genuine. Because sometimes, betrayal doesn't come like a storm. It comes like someone you trust every single day. If this story shocked you, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave a comment below telling us the moment you realized Lauren Mitchell was controlling everything from the beginning.